Classroom. So have you guys used Bongo in Moodle? Just like a thumbs up, nod. If not, that's totally cool. Means there's nothing to unlearn. There's really not too much to relearn if you have used it before. There's just some things like the workspace, if you've heard about that, out the window. We're not using it anymore. But the meeting space looks exactly the same, so there's nothing to learn, though I'm pretty sure Kat said that they're updating it soon, but we don't have the updated version yet, so it'll be very familiar. So I'm going to share my screen. And just for the sake of the recording, I'm going to repeat that we're going to go over virtual classroom, and we're going to go over attendance, and then some other little bits and bobs. I'm going to be doing everything in the live version of the site just because it has the full functionality, and you guys should have that soon. For this, you'll be using your portal information, but for the demo site that you might be using, it's whatever information we gave you, so it might be a little different. And now we're in. So I'm going to use my test course right here. And we're going to go straight into virtual classroom. So just like anything else in Brightspace, it is a course tool. So you might not see it immediately in your nav bar. Like I edited my nav bar just to have the things that I wanted to have up here. So it's very familiar or very likely that it'll be in course tools. And then if you scroll down, you should see virtual classroom. But don't worry, if you don't see it here in this list, it'll definitely be in course admin because it has a list of all of the tools. So I'm going to click virtual classroom. And the first time you open it, it might say like, are you willing to give UCU, which is the brand for Bongo, access to your information? And all that means is, are you letting them connect to your class? So it's kind of the same thing as deep linking in Moodle. You just want to click yes on that, and then you'll get right to this page. So if you've ever worked with workspaces in Moodle and Bongo before, you're going to notice that this looks very similar. But it does look different than when you would usually set up a meeting in Moodle. It would have the white screen and say, what do you want to set up? And it would be new assignment, copied assignment, or new meeting. Here, virtual classroom only means meetings. If you noticed in the course tools, there's video assignments, which is the assignment part of Bongo. So if you want to do meetings, you're doing virtual classroom. And for those of you who have not used Bongo before, the meetings are usually used for either live instances or even recorded lectures. You can use them for both reasons. So it's a little bit easier to differentiate them here in Brightspace, because when you go to create one, down in the bottom right with the plus button, it brings up a schedule meeting box, and you can choose to start it now for when you want to do like recorded lectures if you're ready to go right now. You can also choose to not invite the entire class. So if you're just planning on doing a recorded lecture by yourself with a screen share, you can uncheck this so no one knows you're doing it, and then you can just post it later. But say we're going through this normally, you want to set up like a live instance with your students. You put in your title as required. So maybe I'll do like weekly lecture 1, or maybe I'll just leave it weekly lecture. And then the meeting date, you just set whatever you want. But you do want to think ahead in case you want to do recurring meetings. So if you're wanting to do something like every Wednesday, for example, you would maybe start on a Wednesday. And then whatever time you would plan on doing that every week, if you're planning on recurring, maybe you want to do like 10 or 9, 10, 10 every week, or maybe 10 o'clock. It is a little bit of a weird sort of clock mechanism. You have to click the hour first and then find the hour, click the minute, then find the minute. It's a little bit weird. But once you get that in, you have your date and your time, you can just say that it can repeat weekly, and then you would have like up to 15 weeks. So you could have 15 weeks worth of weekly meetings on Bongo. You just click that, make sure your duration is whatever you like. If you have not used Bongo before, this is pretty exciting. We have up to 240 minutes this time, so 4 whole hours of meeting time, which is great for those 3-hour classes. You used to have to split them in half because the 2-hour time period was the limit, but now it's 4, which is a little daunting. So if I want it for an hour, I just keep it on 60. And then you have a couple options here that we didn't really have in Moodle. So you can have the meeting automatically record. So as soon as you open it up, it starts recording, so you don't have to worry about remembering to record. Though it does say you can still stop and start the recording during the meeting. So it's not like a locked record. You can stop it whenever you like. You can also publish the recorded meeting by default, which I recommend keeping on just so that you have the link for those who could not attend a live session. You can also allow external participants, which means that you can get a link to send out to a guest speaker or something like that. And then you can have the option to invite the entire class. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that looks like to the student. I would guess that it would show up in one of their notification areas up here as something they're invited to, but there are ways for you to let them know that there is a meeting, and I'll go over that too. But I did hear that there was a chat, so I'm going to check that real quick. Setting up exam proctoring and Bongo assignments, is it the same? I believe it is, except you would do it in the virtual or video assignments section. So you might be going over that at a different Brightspace Early Risers session, but the video assignments is everything like the individual project, which is what we used for exam proctoring, and the group projects, and interactive video. They're all in the video assignment section, so I believe that should be the same process.
Riley, I don't understand what this is useful for. I'm sorry, I'm so ignorant.
No, that's okay. It's one of many like video conferencing tools, essentially. Like you can use Zoom to achieve this same end. You could use Google Meet. You can use Bongo. I feel like a lot of people use Bongo to record their lectures and just have them right there in the course instead of linking to a Zoom meeting that you did or like a Google Meet or a YouTube video. It's just a little bit easier to kind of contain your lectures if you wanted to record them ahead of time. I think that's the most useful.
It's like Zoom. You could. That's what I was getting confused. It's like, why wouldn't I just set up a meeting with Zoom and record the meeting? Zoom.
Yeah. Honestly, it's just another tool you can use.
Okay.
But yeah, Zoom pretty much achieves the same end. So whatever you're comfortable with.
Stephanie, if you ever use Panopto, this is what I use to record all my lectures. Because you could bring up your screen and share, and I know Zoom too, but I just recently learned Zoom.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely our Panopto replacement. So it's just another inline tool to use in case you didn't want to go and create a Zoom meeting. But that's actually a good thing to bring up because one of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit later, but I guess I'll tell you about it real quick now, is that we have a Zoom integration with Brightspace that Kat just set up. So you can create a Zoom meeting right here in Brightspace. So it's really going to be whatever you feel like using, whether it's this Bongo application or Zoom, they're going to be in the same place. So good question though, because sometimes we need to know. All right, so I'm going to save this. Now I did repeat this weekly for 15 weeks, so it's going to take a second and then show me all of my lectures out of order, which is interesting. I assure you that when I did this in another course, it did not put it out of order, so I could not tell you why I did that. But I will show you what it does look like when they are all in order. So I'm going into a different class, different virtual classroom. It's showing me all of my lectures that were in numerical order. So you have them all set up a week apart from each other. You can come in here and cancel any that you want. So if one of them ends up falling on Christmas or Thanksgiving, you can always come in here into virtual classroom and click the 3 dots and just cancel it. You can edit them at any time as long as they haven't already occurred. And that's pretty much how you set them up ahead of time. So if you're looking to do live sessions with your students through virtual classroom / Bongo, then you would do it here. So if you want to launch that meeting, I'm going to create one real quick for right now, just so you can see what it looks like when you launch it. So I'm going to click now, keep all these things, and click save. It should show up right in between the 11th and the 18th, just because we're here on the 13th. When I'm ready to start one of my meetings, I just click on the kebab menu and then click launch. And this is familiar to those of you who've used Bongo before. This is the same meeting room lobby that you've always seen. So if your meeting is occurring right now, or you're coming into a meeting that you set up ahead of time, this button will be blue and it will tell you that you can go in. But if it's too early, it'll tell you how much time you have left until the meeting starts, and it'll be a grayed out button. So it gives you some tips on what your computer should be looking like in terms of browsers. You should use headphones, things like that. But once you click enter meeting room, it looks the same as it did in Moodle. So it starts out with how would you like to join the audio? So if you want to listen only, if you're just a participant, or if you want to use the microphone, and you'll usually have to allow that. Then it does a weird little echo test. So you talk and you hear yourself a couple seconds later. And if that is successful, you click yes. And then say you were doing your own little recorded lecture. This is where you would maybe hit record and then start recording. If this is a live session, very much like Zoom and Google Meet, you'll see participants over here in this participants window. There's also a public chat, so everyone can chat with each other. And the cool thing is that when you start recording, obviously everything is recorded with it, including the chat, but that means if you send any files in the chat, that those files are then in that recording. So if you wanted to send them a PowerPoint right there in the recorded lecture, or even the live instance that you are recording, they would then get that file every time they watch the recording. So it's something cool, a cool way to send out files. I would say the biggest difference between Bongo and Zoom is that it has I know Zoom has like a whiteboard and things like that, but you can upload presentations or you can screen share. So you have an option. And the reason you might want to upload a presentation is if you have something that doesn't have animations or embedded links, and you just want to upload something that you can just scroll through. And the cool thing about that is that in the final recording, the presentation, if you uploaded it, will show up as like an interactive table of contents. So each slide gets its own timestamp. And if they wanted to skip ahead to slide 3, because that's what they need to review, then they can click on slide 3 and hear the audio for that. So that's kind of a benefit of Bongo. Otherwise, pretty much everything is the same as Zoom. But this is probably, oh, sure. Yay. Yeah, of course.
You said as long as you don't have animations. So if you upload a PowerPoint that has animations, will those not
it won't carry
work
over
anymore? Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd have to do share screen then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is really the only downside of uploading, is that any fancy things like animations won't be there anymore. And if you did have like a link to a YouTube video, you wouldn't be able to click on it. So in that case, you would want to do screen share. And if you've used Bongo before, you might remember that there is a Bongo screen share extension for Chrome. I don't know if you could see it, but it's all the way up in my top right. It's a little blue bee. If you're using Chrome, this is the only reason or the only way you would need the extension. Firefox doesn't need it. But then once you download this Bongo screen share extension, you get this sharing screen option. And you can do entire screen, application window, or Chrome tab, though we usually recommend entire screen because when you do a presentation in PowerPoint, the presentation itself is a different window than the actual PowerPoint app. So it's a little bit weird. But it gives you this nice little wormhole, so you kind of just see everything, so you know it's working. And then you can view your presentation at any time. You could go back to the screen share, so you could kind of just go between the two things, which is kind of cool. And then when you're done, you just click stop sharing, and you're back to whatever presentation you had, or you can finish your recording or your live session. But that's pretty much like a very quick overview of Bongo. If you guys wanted like a one-on-one, I'd be happy to help you out with that because there are other features. But this is just kind of a very quick overview of Virtual Classroom. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Yeah, I have one more. Oh, okay.
Sure.
You can go. All right, I'll go. When you do the screen share, I've done it before in Zoom using Google Slides.
Okay.
And it worked in the way that I could have speaker notes up on my screen, but those did not show to the students.
Oh, okay.
And I was wondering if you know if that also works with Bongo.
That's a good question. I might have to write that one down.
Because I was normally like writing out basically the lecture in the speaker notes and then just being able to have them right there. I didn't have to like look down or look off to another screen.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
So I would think that yes, you could, just because there's that option to just choose an application window. So if you had the notes in another window and you had this application window up, I would think that it would only show the presentation. So I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to look into it.
Yeah. Try it.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Sure.
I'm sorry if you hear background noise. My daughter's in
That's
a
okay.
meeting too for a camp.
Oh.
Could you go back to the very beginning and just show us okay, like when I'm in my course and
Yes.
I'm in the week that I want to put this in, how do you get it in the week, like right where you want it?
Oh, sure. So is this assuming that you already created one or you want to create one in the week? Because you could do both.
Want to create one.
Okay. So I have a module called
So like
things.
say in week 3 or something.
Okay, yeah, sure. So say I'm in the week I want, this is one of my modules. You would go to, I think, upload and create. I only did this once. It's possible that you can go to existing activities and click virtual classroom. And then I think you can schedule a meeting from here, all the way at the bottom. So if you already had some in here, but you wanted to make a new one for this week, you can click on schedule meeting, and then it kind of gives you the same options, just in a different format. So
Okay, Riley,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I stopped to write something down.
That's
So how
okay.
did you? Could
That's
you do
okay.
it again?
That's okay. I had a hiccup anyway. So you're in the week that you want to put it, right? And
Yeah.
then out of these 3 buttons, you want to click existing activities, even though it doesn't currently exist.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it's because it's an external tool. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see virtual
There it
classroom.
is. Okay.
And then once you click on that, it kind of brings up a mini version of Bongo. And if you already had some set up, you can click one to import it. So if I had one already set up for this week, I could just click one to put it in. Or if I want to create one right from here, you just scroll to the bottom of your list and click schedule meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So you just fill everything out. It has the same options as it did before, and you click save and it goes in. But I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Because if you wanted to put these into your weeks, which I assume you would, so students know where to go, you would just go to the week you want to put it in and click existing activities and go down to virtual classroom. And then you should see a list of all the virtual classroom sessions that you created. So if this week I want to put in the 11th session of my weekly lecture, it just puts it in like this. And then the students click on it and it should open up the meeting room. So it's easy for students to access, pretty simple. You could also Quicklink. So if you remember from our past weeks, whenever you have an HTML editor with all these little buttons, there's that Quicklink option. When you click on that, you can import any assignments or calendar dates or anything into your text so that students can click on it. So same with virtual classroom. It should be down here under third party. You would click on virtual classroom and then click the lecture that you want to link, and it just puts it right in there. So click here for this week's meeting. This is a great option for if you want to do announcements and you put the announcement out there with the link to the lecture. That's a pretty good way to use that feature. But it's easy to link back to your virtual classroom instances, even though students can also go to course tools and virtual classroom. It's just easier to link them to it in the content area so they don't have to go search for it. Are there any other questions? Okay. Because if not, we can talk about attendance, which is another tool we are going to cover today. Though before I go into that, I do want to just kind of circle back to the Zoom thing I talked about because it's here in the nav bar in this classroom for me. This Zoom integration is going to be in our live sessions, or live site rather. And when you click on it, it's just going to have a schedule meeting area. So if you wanted to create a Zoom meeting right from your class, you can do that here. You just schedule a new meeting and fill out the event details just like you would on the Zoom website, and then save it to create that meeting. So like I said, it's an option whether you want to use virtual classroom or Zoom. Both are available to you directly in your course.
Will that populate into our calendars automatically?
That's a good question. We are working on playing around with it because Kat just set it up yesterday. So we will definitely get back to you on that. I would assume yes, just because there are dates assigned, but we'll get back to you on that.
Riley, it's Deb.
Mhm.
I just want to, again, just to clarify. So what you just showed us in Bongo and Zoom, that's only in the live session. And so when did you say that we'll be able to have, when will we have access to the live session?
I believe next week. I'm pretty sure the plan was to have like an import session during our early risers meeting next week, just to have, you know, an import session so we could all import our course materials from the test environment to the live site to make sure everything goes well. That's what I believe the plan is. It might be earlier though. I'll have to check with Kat.
All right,
Yep.
great. Thank you. And what, we'll get an email notification or?
Oh yeah, I'm sure she'll send out an email saying, hey, the live site's up.
Okay, good, thanks.
So yeah, of course.
Well, that
Any
Zoom
other
link, that Zoom, the ability to press Zoom, is that going to be in everyone's Brightspace, even if we didn't elect to convert our personal Zoom to the Marywood Zoom? Does that make sense?
Oh, good question. I didn't have to sign in when I clicked on this. So I want to say no, but I could be wrong because I know that there's, you know, like pricing attached to the licenses. So it'd be a little interesting if they didn't require a license for this. But that is another question I can bring up to Kat. But thank you. So are there any other ones?
Yes, I have a question. So,
Sure.
do we know how easy it is to use Bongo versus Zoom on like a mobile platform for students? So like students that have difficulty with Wi-Fi or maybe not have a laptop. Because I know Zoom is an easier platform because you can have like an app for it, where Bongo it's not so much. So do we know if the capabilities for students to access it?
I would think off the top of my head that Zoom is better mobile-wise.
Still better? Okay.
Yeah, because Bongo, because it's so internet-based, there's a lot of issues with bandwidth, especially when you're sharing your computer screen and sharing your camera and you have audio.
Right.
Like all those things can really weigh down on bandwidth, which stinks, but that's what happens when it's an internet application. So I would say Zoom is more mobile-friendly because it has that app, like you said.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just wanted to double check with how
definitely.
Bongo is now.
Yeah, definitely. And for both of them, because they have like recordability, I think, you know, they could watch the recorded lecture and it would not be an issue in Bongo. So if you did opt to use that, but have recordings, then they should probably be able to watch those because they'd probably be able to download them and then watch them. But I would probably say Zoom just to be safe. All right, anything else before I move on to attendance? Okay, and you can interrupt me as I go through. I honestly have no problem with it because I'm new to this as well. I'll be honest, I kind of just learned these two things yesterday. So it's easy to learn, but the intricate details are sometimes a little tough to grasp. So for attendance, it's going to be a little interesting just because there are a couple extra steps than what they have in Moodle. So if you've ever used the attendance tool in Moodle, it's a bit straightforward. So this one is a little less so, but it's just a little bit more setup, not too big a deal. So I'm going to go into my test course and show you how to do the attendance tool. So just like with anything else, you go into your course and click on course tools, and it should be, if it's not in the list, then you have to click on course admin. So it's not in my list, so I have to click course admin, and it'll bring up a whole big list of all of the things I could do in my course. And it's right here under learner management. So you just click on attendance. So it's the third section down and the first option under learner management. So I'm going to click on that. And if you've never done attendance in here before, which is likely, then it's going to ask you to create a new register. And registers are technically just entries for events. So say you wanted to take attendance for like weekly lectures or something like that, or in-person enrichments. You want to make a register for in-person enrichment, or, you know, the online equivalent could be looped in there too. And then you would just create register for that. It'll make more sense once I start creating one, but it's essentially the overarching category for the attendance. So when I click new register, it's going to bring up a new page where I name the register. So maybe I'll call it in-person enrichment online equivalent. You can put a description if you like. It's mostly just for yourself though. And then there's an attendance scheme. So that's pretty much the attendance statuses that you want to use. And we've created one for COVID, which has PI for present in person, PO for present online, E for excused, and A for absent. And those are the same ones that you'll see in Moodle. So if you want to use that scheme, it's called COVID. Don't worry about the cause for concern percentage. I haven't played around with it, but it isn't a required field, so I wouldn't worry about it. You can also choose to allow users to view the register. That's up to you. And then under users is where it gets a little interesting. You can choose to include all users in the course or include users in groups. So if you've created groups, say of the people who will be only online or the people who will be in person, you can choose to add those groups, or you can just include everybody. I don't have any groups set up in my course, so I'm just going to include everybody. But because we have that present in person and present online status in the COVID scheme, it kind of erases the need for groups, but you're definitely welcome to use them. Under sessions, it gets a little fun because it only shows 3 sessions to begin with, and you have to name them all. But then you can add sessions later, as many as you need. So if I wanted to do like week 1 for my in-person enrichment online equivalent, I could put week 1 in my first session. I can describe it if there's a certain thing we're going to be doing, but otherwise I'll just name my other 2. And if I wanted to create sessions for the rest of the semester, say like the next 12 weeks, I would click into this box and type in 12 because I want 12 more sessions, and then click add sessions. It wants me to save, so I'll click save. And then it goes through and adds 12 more fields for me, which in hindsight was not a great idea because now I have to name them all. So I'm going to go through and just name them week 4, 5, 6.
Friends, Riley, you should have learned from me when we were practicing.
I know. I did it, and I'm like, Kat did the same thing.
And I did it with like 20 though.
That's true.
Not a fun time.
No, definitely not. So you pay for this if you do 15 weeks. So once we are done naming everything, because it will not let you move on if you don't name them, you then click save, and the register is then saved. So it keeps you here on the edit page just so you can make any changes. But to get out of it and view the attendance data, so like all of your students and then all of the sessions as well, you can click on the context button, which is that downward arrow, and click attendance data. This will be visible too from the attendance tool, but this is just a way to get to the data from the register that you just created. So I have the name of my register up here, and then I have all my students, which is just 1, and then all of my sessions as well. So it spans across to the right, and then I have my COVID scheme over here, PI, PO, E, and A. So when you want to take attendance for your in-person enrichment or whatever register you created, you just click on that little pencil icon, and it opens up the little area where you can set the attendance status. So if I wanted to set my student here to PI, I could just save it, and then that's set. If you had a whole bunch of students and they all showed up to in-person enrichment or whatever your register was, you can set a status for all users. You can even email them too if you like from here. But otherwise, you just kind of select your status from the drop-down and click save, and it brings you back to the data page where you can do it again for other students if you like. I'm going to cancel on this though and close it out just to show you what it looks like in the grand scheme of things. You have your students' names going down, and then you have their statuses in each session of your register. So that's how it looks. It's just a little weird to set up the register at first because you don't have to do that in Moodle. But once you have it set up, you could even just make it as broad as you want and just have as many sessions as you like here. Are there any questions about that?
Riley, what are the other options other than the COVID? Because I'm trying to think, you know, applying it to the class that I'm working on now that I'm converting over to Brightspace. I mean, I wouldn't have an on-campus enrichment because this is a completely online course. So
Sure.
What other attendance schemes could you create? Or
Well,
can you create?
I think we create them on the organizational level. but the default one is the system scheme, which I'm pretty sure is just present and absent. I'm going to click save just to see if I could show you what it looks like. So I'm going to go back into my attendance data, could take attendance for the student, and under the statuses, it has P and A. So yeah, present and absent.
You want me to add, like, I think Moodle has present party, like present, late, absent, excused. If you want me to, I can change our default to those. If you want to be able.
No, I've never used this before, but it's helpful. For me, it would be more or less present or absent, I think, at this point.
But it would be good to have late as an option.
Late?
Yeah, in both schemes, if students show up,
Late.
seriously late.
Sure, right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Like last 5 minutes, I made it.
I was,
but as a course instructor, though, you have to go in and put that attendance status in manually.
yes.
Right.
Didn't want to add the late for the present options because that would be so many then. Like we would have present in person, but late, or like, so I didn't add it there for those because that would have been so many.
Right.
But I will add it to the rare one for sure.
I have a question. So, say I have 30 students and I don't want to individually go through and mark whether they're present or absent. Normally, I just mark if they're absent and then assume that the rest are present. Can you do that? Will it let you just mark the ones that are absent?
That's a good
question. You
question.
have to go through and mark every single one of them.
I'm pretty sure it will let you. That it'll let you just mark the ones that you need because it doesn't have like a little required asterisk. But the other option is it does have the set status for all users button. So like if most of your class is present, you could mark out, say set status to present for everyone and then just go change the absence. Or if most of your class was absent, hopefully not, you could mark.
That makes sense, yeah.
You could do absent and then add your.
That would be the good way to do it. Okay.
Yeah, and since I only have one student, it's a little bit tricky, but you can check the boxes and then set the status for the checked users. So if you wanted to check the ones who were absent after you mark them all present, you can just check them and do it that way. Little hard to demo with one student though. I thought I had 4. I only have 1.
Riley, because I put everybody in there as students in mine.
So I have another question, if you don't mind. So I can see this being, let's say, part of participation, or even if you have an attendance component to your final grade in the course. So other than just sort of, again, keeping this as a tab or a list of, who's present on these, these assignments or lectures or whatever, is there a way then that you can tie that to, say, class participation if it's part of my grade?
That's a good question. Kat, do you have any?
I'm not sure if it does it automatically.
Okay.
There is when you're setting up the assignment, there is option to make it so it's not a submission assignment. You could say like in-person observation type thing, so that way students don't have to submit anything. But I'm gonna go in and look at.
Okay.
I'll
so
look
you'd
at
have to set that like in the grade book, in other words.
Yes. Because I don't think it associated any.
Yeah. So this is just basically, as a course instructor, you're just keeping tabs or a list of who's been present at these, sessions or lectures and who hasn't. Pretty much, that's what this is.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
I thought this was really meant to be able to contact trace, honestly, because these things are not. My understanding is the enrichment is really, there's no grade. There shouldn't be anything attached to it whatsoever. No.
Right.
If they want to do it, they can do it. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it.
I agree with that. But see, for my class that I'm doing for the Brightspace, that's a completely online class. It's a doctoral class, so I have a different perspective. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, for the enrichment, there would be no grade attached. Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, and this was just an example I used. It could literally be anything you wanted to. Even if, you wanted to use it when we get back to a normal, whatever that would be. If you wanted to do it for your Monday, Wednesday, Friday courses, you can just use the online attendance tool. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Hey, Riley, can you go back, go to course tools and go to attendance again that way for me real quick?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, Riley, will you view as an instructor?
Mhm.
I had you do it, and then I realized that we have the same access. So
Okay.
sorry, guys. This is what I get for coming in late.
It's okay. All right, so we got it.
So you do have attendance schemes there. So for like Deb, for yours, you could go to attendance scheme and you can click on new scheme and you could customize one for your course. And then you could
Okay.
have different registers. So like if you guys wanted to, technically you could make one for your in-person sessions. So like we could have it for contact tracing. So like say this is only for the in-person sessions and this is, and I'm going to use the COVID attendance thing, but you could make a separate register and use it for whatever you wanted to track participation, to do whatever you need to do.
I think that's great. That's what we needed to do, because if you put the COVID thing there, really the only relevant piece is, have you seen these people in person? All the others should be, that's just my opinion, but everything else for participation or whatever should be done on its own,
Mm-hmm.
Like who cares if they're doing it online? What we care about is, are they're in person? But you might care if they're doing it online for course purposes.
Yeah. So this way you can craft it to match whatever you need, just as long as I ask you to use the COVID one in it for your in-person sessions, so we can easily contact trace. It does say that you can assign grades for user attendance.
Oh, okay.
So there. I will throw this documentation link in the chat so we can all explore it more in depth this afternoon.
Alrighty. Are there any other questions about the attendance, about the virtual classroom, about anything we talked about so far? I have one more thing to talk about, but any questions about it? If not, there was a request about PowerPoints with narration on slides, and we have a fix for that.
I'm sorry, Riley. One more quick question about the attendance. So the student will see, how they've been marked, attending or not, or in person or not in person. So the individual student sees that, but no one else in the class sees that, right? In other words, they wouldn't have access to say, somebody else's attendance, correct? It would just be the student seeing that on their end?
Yes. Yeah, they only see their own. They cannot see any.
Okay, so they would know, oh, I missed this, so they would see that as an absence, or again, missing a assignment, not an assignment, but missing like a meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Okay. So I had mentioned about the PowerPoint element. If you guys have used narrations on PowerPoint before, uploading the PowerPoint itself to Brightspace will just kind of turn it into a PDF and you won't be able to hear the narrations. So a way around that would be to make it a video. And that's actually pretty simple from the PowerPoint app itself. So if you go into PowerPoint and you open up your PowerPoint presentation, you can then just go over to File and go down to Export. So it's one of the last options. And when you click on that, you can create a video from your narrated PowerPoint. And it retains the narrations. If you use timings in your PowerPoint, it uses those too. But on the whole, it kind of just plays until the end of the narration. Then it goes to the next slide, plays the narration, so on and so forth. So you can choose what your quality would be, I would probably recommend HD at the very most, just because Kat and I tried it yesterday and it took a long time for it to make a video.
Yeah,
And
Deb,
then you
prepared to sit, Deb.
it took a long time. And then you can choose to use your narrations, which you do want to use. And then you just create the video and show where you want to save it. So probably just a desktop would be the simplest thing. So I don't know if it's actually going to take a while or not. It looks like it's chugging along. So I'll be able to show you how to upload it to Brightspace. Now, Kat, did you upload the file itself or did you upload it as a video?
I uploaded the video file.
Okay, because I do video.
I just click and drag the video over.
Oh, okay. So let's see. So I have a module here.
So you can also, like, if I were doing this personally, I would put the video in first, and then I would also put the regular PowerPoint file in, and I would make it so they can't get to the regular file until they've at least clicked on the video.
Oh,
I
okay.
would set those restrictions up personally, so that way I knew that they were getting the one, like, and hearing that there was narration for them to listen to before they just, like, skip that. But that's just me.
No, that makes sense. So if you missed what I did, I just opened up my file explorer and put it on like the side so I could still see my Bongo or my Brightspace course. And then I clicked and dragged the video down here, and it lets you place it where you want. So that line indicates where it's going to lay. And then once I released it, it uploaded the video, which took a couple seconds. So then the video is here, they can click on it, and you can do what you need. So if you wanted to do something like a restriction, would that be the edit properties in place?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so dates and restrictions. So you can probably do it that way with the release conditions. So like they need to click on this, or you'd put the release conditions on the PowerPoint itself and say they need to click on something else before they can view it. That's just an option though. It's something you can do if you have narrations on PowerPoints, but in general, if you didn't create a PowerPoint with narrations and you were thinking about it, I'd probably say if you want to and you're comfortable with PowerPoint, go ahead. Otherwise, I'd probably use Virtual Classroom to like screen share and then record and put your voice over it. Whatever you're more comfortable with, both options work. So are there any questions about that or anything else we talked about today?
Did you talk about the Zoom already?
A little bit. We had some questions about it, and since we just got it up yesterday, I was like, we'll talk about it. One of the questions, though, was, do you need a Zoom license to use Zoom in Brightspace?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't remember logging in, but maybe I did.
It's connected to your account. I have it set to automatically log in based on emails. So yes, it should be. So like if you were to go, so like Riley, if you scheduled a meeting now, or if you or actually go back and click on course meetings.
Okay.
There you go. Do you see that next to the blue schedule a new meeting, it says all my Zoom meetings and recordings? So if you can see it for the course, but you can click on that and it would show you all of your meetings that you have on your Zoom account. So not just for that course.
That's interesting, because I have previous meetings that didn't show up here, but that's not a big deal because they were for something else, and they might have been on my other account before I switched over. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
We're figuring it out, guys.
Yeah. Do you know? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you know if when you create a meeting, if it goes onto the course calendar or no?
I want to say I set that up.
Okay. I said probably yes, but I wasn't sure.
Schedule one and look.
Okay.
I want to say I did that in the settings, because the settings for Zoom are actually set up on the Zoom side and not Brightspace. Like I had to check a box.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
Okay, so I scheduled it for today. So then I guess I could go into the calendar, wherever that might be.
Yeah, I feel like I need to update that course tools drop down because it's repetitive with what's on the bar.
Oh no. Okay.
Did it work?
I don't think it did,
I'll look
unfortunately.
at it. Maybe I could click it, guys. I'll
Brand
invest.
new.
I have a meeting with our Brightspace people tomorrow, so I will ask her.
Okay. But yeah, we did talk about Zoom a little bit, and I think those were the two big questions. I don't know if I missed any, but yeah, we did talk about it right after Bongo.
My only question had been, will it automatically populate into the Google Calendar? But I can see you can choose that to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you could stick it over in Google Calendar. Yeah.
Riley, since they're all here, if you guys don't have any other questions, we could show you how to get the Zoom plugin for your Google Calendar. So if you were to schedule something on Google Calendar, you can choose to make a Zoom meeting with it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Should I just search G Suite Zoom?
Yeah.
Zoom for G Suite. So because we have G Suite, if you go to this, I'll throw it in the chat. If you go to this and install it, it'll actually install Zoom for G Suite, which is pretty cool because I'm going to go into my own email because that's where I have it set up. I can open my calendar and get to it real quick. And when I go to set up an event or even go to edit a past one, I can set up video conferencing. And instead of it just doing Google Hangouts by default, it gives me the option for Meet and Zoom. So you can add Zoom and it just adds the conferencing details for you. You can add your time, put in your guests, and they all get access to that Zoom meeting link. So just a quick recap, you just click on video conferencing and choose Zoom instead of Google Meet, and it should just import a link already, the phone numbers and everything you need, ID and password. So yeah, and it includes joining instructions too, in case people don't know how to use the Zoom links.
And we have Chris saying she just did it. It took 10 seconds. Super quick.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you guys know, I didn't get that email yet for the Zoom, for the Marywood Zoom. I have a personal account that I've been using all summer to teach, but do you know when? I filled out that email, I think that you sent on
The original one or the still needed one?
the still needed. Yeah.
Still needed is next week.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes. No, we bought an initial set of accounts and then we wanted to see how many more we needed. So we are purchasing a second set of accounts this week.
Oh, geez. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, it will be easy.
Thank you.
Yes, we just have to give them our dollars.
As with anything, really. But yeah. Sorry I didn't give you guys enough time to work on things on your own. It's kind of a beefy session.
Can I ask a couple quick questions?
Yeah, of course.
I wrote down. So if you create a submodule, how do you delete that? If you're you know.
Let's see.
You can only delete from the table of contents page.
Okay.
Can you demo that, Riley?
Yeah. I just had to sign back in.
I'm clicking all around. I'm like, how do I get this off of here?
I don't blame you.
I did that the first time also. I was like, what is happening right now? And why can't I delete it? Everything else is so easy. You have to be on the table of contents page.
Okay, so
it might be difficult on purpose so that you don't accidentally click on the wrong thing.
That is true. Because you would think it would be here, but that just collapses it. So I created one. It's over here. You can't even right click it. So you have to go to table of contents and then I believe scroll down to it. And then you get a context menu from which you can delete it. So it's only from there.
I do want to point out that there's 2 delete options that you have, right?
Oh yeah, I should have said that.
Last week we talked about how you could go to the assignments page and build everything in assignments, but it doesn't necessarily show up on the course content page. So you can delete a module And you have two options. You have delete permanently or just delete from content. So if you choose just delete from content, those things would still live in your assignment area. So if you were going to move them, or you were like, I just don't like the way this submodule turned out, you'll just choose the remove from topic versus the permanently delete. But if you're like, I don't even need these assignments, I don't need these forums, I don't need anything, you can permanently delete.
Yeah. And I think that goes for almost anything too. Like I just try to delete a video and it asks me whether I want to get rid of it because it's technically a topic. So you get the same options either way. But yeah, that's how you get rid of the pesky submodule.
Great. Now I know. Thank you. So I have one other editing question. So when I imported all of my Moodle content into Brightspace, and I'm looking at my sidebar here, and you know how on yours it says, accessing your creativity has item 4. Mm-hmm. And when you click on it, if I created a new module, it shows up. But when I imported the content, it doesn't show up. It just shows up as a number. It doesn't actually list it out. Is there a way to change it so that they all get listed out? I don't know.
I'll probably have to look at yours individually, Deb.
Okay, yeah. I tried and I thought, oh, do I have to actually create a new module and then transfer all that information over? It's not quite formatted the right way when you actually create a new module. So, okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I will have to look at yours.
Okay. It's just to make it pretty, of course. It's there. It's all there. It's just, yeah.
Makes sense.
Riley and I like things to be pretty. So,
yes. Definitely. Oh, Kat, when will the live site be ready? I think that was another big question we had.
Hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
We have all of so like the way like the site works, we have to put in like all of the colleges, all of the departments and everything, so they're all like lined up like our structure is. And we had to wait we did things backwards. So the environment you guys are all working in is a temporary test environment that they let us keep because of our situation. And now we have our actual test environment set up. So now that the actual test environment got set up, it actually was just finished this morning. Our SIS team is going to import all of the files to make sure all of the faculty and student enrollments show up right. Riley and I are going to spend from 4 to 5 days checking them because that's when we're free. Okay. So we're going to spend today like checking a bunch of them and verifying them with What's in Colleague to make sure that everything worked the way it was supposed to. And as long as that is safe, we're going to put them all on the live site tomorrow. So, and then after that, we will move everything from our fake test environment to the live site. So we'll just back it all up. We'll go over, you'll have all of your actual courses, and we will import.
So is there any time we shouldn't be working on it?
No, you're
between
fine.
now and then?
You're still in our fake test environment, so work away. It doesn't, because everything, I mean, we're just transferring from Brightspace to Brightspace, so everything will transfer nicely and it will be fine and dandy. So you can keep working, and like I said, I don't know, we can either wait till next Friday to do live walkthrough together, or I can send stuff out as soon as the live site is up with directions on how to transfer.
I vote for sooner. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Don't blame you there.
Yeah, no, I knew it was going to be a tight one. So I kept telling them, guys, I was like, we have weeks.
Just got to keep poking them.
Yeah. So,
right.
that is
I'll close out this recording just so